What's up, everybody? My name is Carlos Ruiz. I'm going to be going over the Powerhouse Flowchart 24-step system. I'm going to go ahead and break it down a little bit into detail. So these are the first 12 steps going over motivation, what's got you considering selling, right? We're going to set some expectations, let them know that we may or may not be the buyer. We're going to roll into explaining our business model to even see if we're compatible. We're going to go over how we buy and see if it even fits this scenario. Then if it does, we're going to continue to qualify. We're going to go roll into the timeline. We're going to roll into the condition. We're going to be writing things down as we move forward. Our whole goal is to stick to the game plan. There's going to be a lot of stories. They're going to divert you. Acknowledge the stories, continue to build the rapport, move forward, get back to the game plan, get to closing the deal. So continue to move forward. We go to price, right? We're having a little bit of a struggle there. We let them know where we can be. Here's our maximum allowable offer. Continue to try to sweeten the deal if it doesn't work. Try it again and say, hey, if your number doesn't work, how close to mine can you get to? We're going to roll into going over that if we can't buy it cash, we're not that cash buyer. We can buy a couple other ways, but let me ask you a few questions. We're going to roll into asking them to list it. If it doesn't work out, we're going to ask them to renovate it and rent it. That doesn't work out, we're going to state the last resort, right? Which is creative financing. You have to understand that homeowners in a position that whenever they want to sell, they would entertain a cash offer that suited them. So if they got the number they liked, they would go cash. But if not, what they would rather do is go list it, because if they list it on the market, most likely they're going to get that market price and cash is going to be wired to their account. So that's what they would rather do. I've found out that if they don't sell it cash, another way they would rather go would be to just rent it out and make some cash flow this way. And if not, we're going to go and state how we can buy this thing on terms. So when we go in and explain how we buy it on terms, it's really good to break down a story on how it works, some type of analogy so they can understand. Typically, you bring up a story, they might remember that whenever they bought in that story, whether it be a car or a home, they put some money down. Your goal is to continue to move forward. So if they do bring up money down, after step 13, your goal is to just let them know that, yeah, we can put some money down. Let me ask you a few more questions and we'll bring that back up. So we're going to roll into fact finding now. This last 12 steps is going into creative financing, and we're going to show you how to get all the numbers to basically present the numbers to yourself, your team, a mentor, someone like myself that can see how to underwrite the deal. So we're going to go ahead and roll into asking them what the mortgage is, right? We find that out, we write it down, we ask them the interest rate, and we ask them the monthly payment to the principal, interest, tax, and insurance. If they don't have a mortgage, we don't need to ask question 15 or 16. We're going to go ahead and roll into question 17, which is ask them to rent it out, right? So, or ask them what the market rents are. And then we roll into asking what their goals are once they sell the property, and ask them how much money they need to achieve that goal. And then we're going to ask them what they're willing to accept as a payment to us, where we're going to negotiate in there. And then we're going to ask them about financing, how long they're willing to work with us on. So all of that's going to be negotiated in there. Once we get down all the terms, we're going to go ahead and just reconfirm them and establish what they are. And then we're going to go over the main seller concerns. If they have questions, let's go ahead and answer them, right? After we have answered everything, no more concerns, let's go ahead and close this puppy up, gather all the sale info, and just move into the sales agreement. So going over in a little bit of detail, we can roll into motivation, right? So typically when you find out that, hey, John, you're the owner, right? Yes, I am the owner. Okay, cool. So while I look up your address on my computer, my laptop, whatever you're going to say to them, can you tell me what's got you considering selling your property? They're going to say a whole bunch of things. Whatever it is, your job is to fact find, dig a little bit of pain in there, write it down, move on to the next step, which is setting your expectations. John, I want to let you know up front that I may or may not be your buyer. I do have intentions of purchasing each property that I look at, but it's just unfortunate that I can't. Are you going to be okay with that? Most likely they will, right? Let's move forward. We're going to explain our business model to even see if we're compatible. So, John, before we move forward, I want to see if we're even compatible for each other. Here's how our business models work. We buy several ways, but prefer cash as it's preferred by both parties. And when we purchase cash, we look for properties that need a little work so we can get a little bit of a discount, put a little bit of money into it, and flip it for a little bit of a profit. And now that you know our model, would you sell this property in the as is condition to us, or would you rather list this with the realtor for a premium, right? Reality is asking these upfront questions will help you out, because if they'd rather list it, we're not going to waste our time moving forward. But if they want to work with us, we can build that rapport. Some people don't know how to differentiate those two, and this is going to help you out. Now let's go qualify the rest of this opportunity. So, John, if we were to come to an agreement on a price today or soon, how much time do you need to vacate this property, or to, let this tenant know that you're moving, whatnot, whatever it is, let's write it down. Let's go ahead and ask detailed questions. I'd like to ask you a few questions about the condition of this property, right? In the last 3 years, have you renovated the kitchens, the floors, and the restrooms? And what about the mechanics of the property? When was the last time the electrical and the plumbing were checked and serviced? And what about the roof and the HVAC system? When was the last time those checked and serviced? Write them down. Your job to paint a picture, to get out there. Hey, I might not need to replace this. I might need to check this out, paint a little bit of a picture so you get a nice little discount. Let's move forward to the price, right? So now, knowing this property is going to need a bit of work, and if it doesn't, right, we just ask the question. So, how much are you asking for the property? Let's write it down. Our job is, this whole time we were also comping the property to see what we can give as our maximum allowable offer. At this moment, they gave you a price. Go ahead and write it down, circle it. Let's go ahead and sweeten it out, make sure it works for us. And if it doesn't, let's go ahead and give them our offer, right? We give them our offer. If it works, let's lock it up. If it doesn't, let's continue to move forward, okay? So from here, if it doesn't work, let's try to sweeten it out. Is there any wiggle room? Why would you not be able to work with me on this number? Okay, ask them this question. So how close to my number can you get to? And I'll see if it even works for me in my business model. They might say, I'm not going to get close to your number. Well, how much, can you, how close from your number to my number can you get to? And then we move forward. After that number gets brought up, you can now scratch out the old number you wrote down and write down the new one, and let's move forward. If you know that's not going to work, let's go ahead and let them know that it's not going to work for us, right? So confidently rule yourself out as a cash buyer. John, do you remember when I said in the beginning of the call that I may or may not be your buyer? Well, right now I can confidently let you know that I'm not your buyer, cash. But if you remember, I did say that I can purchase other ways. And I typically roll into this next question. So, John, do you remember when I had asked you if you would rather work with my business model or just list this with an agent? Well, I want to ask you that question again. Would you rather list it with an agent to get that price? And here's the thing. I believe if you put some money into it, you clean it, allow a realtor to bring clients in throughout the week, I believe that you can get the best price that way, though you would be paying the realtor's commissions. I'm painting the picture. They may go that route if that's the way they want to go. And if not, they may not want to work with the realtor for X amount of reasons. This is what they would rather do next if this doesn't work. Typically, I've learned they would rather rent it out and make some cash flow. So let's go ahead and ask them that. So, hey, John, why don't you just put some money into it, renovate it, and rent it out for market, right? And if it was already a rental property, why don't you just, spiff it up, right? And then rent it out for more money. Let's try to see what their goal is, right? Let's see if they're open to doing this. If not, we know that we can go into creative financing. It's our last resort. So don't ask it as an open-end question. Let's state it, right? So, John, the only way that I can justify paying that higher price over the majority of investors is to purchase this property on terms. Have you ever even sold anything, a house or, a car on terms, or understand how that works? They may say yes, they may say no. If they say no, let's go ahead and bring analogy and bring a story up into it, right? So, hey, John, it's very simple. It's just making payments over time. It's very similar to financing your car or your house. You may have even sold your friends or family in the past some gym equipment, a car, or furniture on payments. It's very similar. This is how it works. If they like it and they said, let's proceed, let's go ahead and ask them a couple questions about some of the mortgages that are remaining or debts that are remaining in place, if there are any, right? So the next question would be asked if they have a mortgage, what that balance is, or payoff. If they don't, we just continue to move on by. If they have the mortgage, we ask them what the interest rate, let's write it down. Let's ask them for the PITI. What's the payment to your principal, interest, tax, and insurance? Ask those questions. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance all together. Let's go ahead and write it down. And then let's ask them this question. Do you by chance know how much the market rent is or how much I can charge after I renovate this property and bring it up to today's standards? Most of the time they'll know. Let's write it down. If not, we'll do our own due diligence so we can underwrite the deal. We then roll into, so John, let me ask you, what's your goal when you sell this house? Are you going to buy a Ferrari? You're going to invest in a new property? You're going to buy a vacation and park the rest of the money in the bank? What's your goal? Let's find out the goal so we know and understand the amount of money they're going to need down for us to move forward if they need any money down. Next question, right, is how much money do you need to achieve that goal, right? They've already explained to you how much money they need or what their goal is. So now we're asking them, well, how much money do you need to achieve that goal? Let's go ahead and write it down, right? Let's ask them about how much they're willing to work with us on payments. So John, knowing that I need to make some positive cash flow for me to justify this higher purchase price that other cash investors aren't willing to pay you, how much are you willing to accept from me monthly, knowing that I still need to make some money every month and knowing that the market rent is X amount? Well, at this moment, you found out the mortgage, if there was one, and the interest and the monthly payment. So if you found out the monthly payment's $1,000 and you found out market rent is 2,000, you know that there's $1,000 spread. So John, in between that $1,000, how much are you willing to work with me since I need to make cash flow? That's the way that I can justify paying this higher price. I make money this way since I'm not making money on the purchase. We write down what we're going to split, John and I, right? And then let's ask them how long they're willing to finance us. Let's bring up the car and the home scenario because they remember when they bought a car or a house. Let's go ahead and relate it. So if they ask for a lot of money down, let's push it like if it's a mortgage and not too much money. I'd still try to get the most for it, but we can work with shorter terms. But hey, John, remember how I said that this is just like financing your car or your house? Yeah, I do. Okay. Well, how long are you willing to finance me for? It's very similar to cars, which are like 5 to 7 years, or homes are like 20 to 30 years, right? So somewhere in between those lines. Let's go ahead and write it down and let's move forward. Let's go over the terms. All right. So John, the purchase price is 300,000, right? And then the down payment to you is 15,000. And the interest rate, if you have negotiated an interest rate on the equity of a deal, then bring it up. If you're just bringing up the interest rate on the mortgage of the debt that's in place, let's leave that out. That don't even bring that up. But if there is interest negotiated on the equity, go ahead and bring it up. So I am going to be giving you 2.2% on your money. And then the payment to you each month is $1,500. So I can make my money and then you're financing me for 9 years. Is that correct, John? It is. Okay, perfect. Let me ask you if you have any questions and concerns that I may be able to address. If they don't have any questions, then it's your job and your duty to be professional and go over the main seller concerns. Go over them and let's just roll into closing the deal. So John, what's your best email address? What's the full name to you and your spouse that's on title? And then let's just draft up this purchase sale agreement and we're going to send it over to you and you have a good one. Goodbye. And that's it right there. That's basically the 24-step system. It's going to help you all out very quickly to run through a scenario. If you don't feel super confident in what you're doing, just remember the basics, the foundation and the structure, and just get back to it. You don't have to use everything word for word. You can change up the verbiage as soon as you feel comfortable. Thank you so much for watching. Much love, and I'm out.